We have some breaking news. We are opening this bulletin with some breaking news coming in from North Korea. Just when the world was anticipating North Korea and South Korea can make peace, here comes a statement from North Korea that can derail the process. In fact, the statement can hurt US President Donald Trump's North Korea plans, even as he wishes to score biggest diplomatic victory of his presidency. North Korea's official Korean Central News Agency has attacked the Max Thunder air combat drills between South Korea and the US. North Korea says the exercises involved US stealth fighters and B-52 bombers. What more, the statement also warned the US to carefully deliberate the fate of planned talks in Singapore on June 12th. And to bring us more details on this news story, I am joined in by Atul Aneja. Let's quickly go across to Atul Aneja. Mr. Aneja, how do you view the current developments? Why are the US and South Korea military drills posing concern for North Korea, since this action could be viewed inconsistent in terms of the Panmunjom Declaration of April 27th?
Well, regarding the military exercises, the North Koreans have expressed concern in the past as well. In fact, it was the Chinese side which had proposed the suspension for suspension proposal, which was that North Korea would maintain the status quo when it comes to its nuclear weapons and missiles, while the exercises between the Americans and South Korea would also be suspended. So this was a suspension proposal from the Chinese side come earlier. So that's one issue. But I think connected to that is the more serious one, where John Bolton from the United States the Trump administration has cited the Libyan example of Muammar Gaddafi as a role model for the North Koreans to pursue. And we know what happened when the Libyans surrendered their nuclear weapons. That ultimately led to a regime change and the assassination of Muammar Gaddafi. So that's a very wrong example to cite before the talks. So I think the North Koreans are very concerned that they be provided with ironclad security guarantees before they move in the direction of nuclear disarmament.
By our senior correspondent, Ramesh Ramachandran, live from the newsroom. Ramesh, what is the US stating at the current developments?
Well, morning, Akanksha. The US has said that it proceeds on the assumption that the Trump-Kim meeting will go as planned on the 12th of June in Singapore. But that said, the KCNA statement, the Korean Central News Agency statement, has indeed put a cloud over the Trump-Kim talks, which, as I mentioned, is scheduled to be held in Singapore next month. But that said, this is not wholly unexpected, as Atul was pointing out there. This is a very delicate issue, one which has grave implications for North Korea. We have yet to see a country which has nuclear weapons and voluntarily gives up those weapons in exchange for lifting of sanctions or other such measures. So it remains to be seen whether North Korea actually goes ahead and hardens its position on this issue going forward between now and the 12th of June, when the Trump-Kim meeting is scheduled to take place.
Right. Also, Ramesh, it's important to establish why, these military drills between the US and South Korea are posing a threat to North Korea.
Sorry, could you repeat the question, Akanksha?
Ramesh, it's important to establish why the military drills between South Korea and the US are posing a threat to North Korea.
Well, this military drill is part of a series of maneuvers which have taken place both on the Korean Peninsula and its vicinity by both the South Koreans and the American navies and the armed forces. The latest drill, called Max Thunder, began on Friday, 11th of May last week, and it entailed a lot of exercises by the B-52 bombers, aircraft carriers, and so on. So this, North Korea has always seen the South Korea-US military drills as a threat to its existence. It sees as a provocative action. In this case, The KC in his statement, Akanksha says, called it a provocative military ruckus between South Korea and the US. So essentially what North Korea wants is going forward a reduction of American troops on the Korean Peninsula, an end to the military exercises between South Korea and the US, also possibly a rethink or a revisit of the South Korea-US treaty alliance under which South Korea enjoys the American nuclear umbrella. So these are all issues which need to be thrashed out in the next coming weeks and months.
Right. Ramesh, we also have senior journalist Mr. Atul Aneja joining us. Atul, could a possible cancellation of the upcoming summit between North Korea and US be viewed as North Korea's tactic to push for more concessions from US?
Well, I think, quite honestly, if you look from a North Korean perspective, it is the Americans which have to now have to demonstrate their goodwill for talks with Kim Jong-un, because look at the steps which have been taken from the North Korean side. They have dismantled their nuclear test site already as a sign that they are not going to do any more nuclear tests. They have reached out to the South Koreans, and there have been talks with that. And now their major concern is security guarantees. That if they go ahead and do something in terms of denuclearizing, then what is it, how does that, what assurances will be given to the North Koreans that once they are defanged of their nukes, that there will not be a regime change?
Right.
Looking at this in a perspective, we have seen the Middle East examples of what happened to Saddam, and especially the Libyan example, which John Bolton has cited yesterday. So,
right.
so therefore, it is very important from the North Koreans to be given security guarantees. I think the main debate is who gives it to them. Will the Chinese do it? Will the Chinese and Russians do it? But unless they are given assurances before the talks that, look, at the end of it, they are going to be accommodated and mainstreamed in the world community, I don't think they are going to go ahead with the negotiations in the present narrative which is being woven around them.
Right. Mr. Aneja, very valid point coming in from you about security guarantees. Ramesh, who's also joining us live from the newsroom, has a question for you.
Thank you, Akanksha. Just to take off of the point where Atul left. Atul, we've seen North Korea take a number of steps in the last few weeks and months, starting with suspension of nuclear and missile tests, peace talks with South Korea, reducing hostilities at the DMZ, closing or dismantling the Punggye-ri testing site, and also releasing 3 American hostages. In return, what has the Americans indicated to the North Koreans yet, except for saying that we will continue with our policy of maximum pressure and we will insist on having complete, verifiable and irreversible denuclearization? So isn't there a mismatch, asymmetry in expectations before the summit, Atul?
I completely agree with you, Ramesh, that, these are the steps which you listed out which the North Koreans have taken. But on top of that, they are given the example of a Gaddafi. I mean, this is going to send shivers down the spine of anyone, because you remember what happened in 2011. Gaddafi was brutally murdered, and he had surrendered all his nuclear weapons between 2007 and 2008. So if the message to the North Koreans is that, once you denuclearize, you are a target for regime change, which Bolton seems to suggest, both in terms of Iran and in terms of North Korea, then I'm sorry, the North Koreans, despite all the history, are justified in taking a position that, hey, you just change the narrative. If you want to talk on equal terms and in a win-win way, then we have you. But if you are going to use this as an excuse, not South, then legitimately we're out of it.
Indeed, and just to discuss the point mentioned in the KCNA statement, Atul, it says, we will not engage in trade with the US in return for the lifting of sanctions or any other measure that the US might take in the days ahead. So clearly an indication that the American policy will not cut much ice with Pyongyang, especially given the circumstances they find themselves in.
Sorry, Ramesh, I missed out the main point.
What the KCNA statement essentially says is that we will not give up our nuclear weapons in return for lifting of sanctions or other such measures which the US might be willing to take in the days ahead.
Absolutely, because that is just one part of it. You can't give us sweetness in the trade deal by not giving sanctified security guarantee. I mean, that is then it's regime survival. I think that is something which is going to be completely non-negotiable from the North Korean side, this accumulation of sanctions. So it's very understandable where the North Koreans are coming from, because we have a clear example then. And also, the second thing is the U.S. credibility itself in terms of sticking to deals which it signed. You've seen they're walking out of the Iran deal. And what is the guarantee if to sign a deal with the North Koreans, if they're going to abide by it, the next president which comes to the United States is going to knock the deal. There are legitimate questions from the North Korean perspective, I'm afraid.
Right. Thank you, Atul, and back to you, Akanksha.
Thank you, Mr. Anija and Ramesh, for joining us on this news story.